Today on the Matt Walsh Show, some portions of the Covenant School Shooters Manifesto have finally been made public after over a year. These excerpts make it very clear why the powers that be wanted to keep the manifesto a secret. Also, a town in Massachusetts will now send social workers to respond to some 911 calls. What could possibly go wrong, except for everything? Joy Reid claims that women in Missouri have been enslaved. That's news to most of us. And a morbidly obese woman wins a beauty pageant. All of that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. For an exclusive Father's Day treat, choose Good Ranchers. They've just unveiled their limited edition King Cut, available only for this special occasion. The King Cut box is packed with thick-cut bone-in ribeyes, center-cut filet mignons, and thick-cut bone-in New York strips, all sourced from local family farms and aged 21 days to perfection. The work of a father never ends, so Good Ranchers is offering free bacon for life with any new subscription. Make sure to use code Walsh to receive 2 packs of Good Ranchers uncured applewood smoked bacon with every order. Seriously, you won't just get free bacon this year, you'll get it next year and every single year after that. And if you need any other reason to support Good Ranchers, they're not only amazing partners of my show, but they support the paralyzed veterans of America too. Every order saves American farms and supports American veterans. So knock this Father's Day out of the park. Visit goodranchers.com and use code Walsh to secure their brand new King Cut box for a dad you know, or subscribe to any of their custom curated box for yourself. Don't forget to use code Walsh at checkout to claim your free applewood smoked bacon for life. That's goodranchers.com, promo code Walsh. Yeah, you guessed it. YouTube doesn't want you to hear what I'm going to say. If you're not okay with YouTube playing Mommy, look in the description and find out how to hear the show completely uncensored. You know, there's nothing like sitting behind home plate at a baseball game, being courtside at a basketball game, or front row for your favorite concert. When you want the best, you have to act quickly or someone else will instead. It's like if you're hiring for your business, you want to find the most talented people for your open roles before the competition scoops them up. So what's the best way to do that? ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds qualified candidates fast. And right now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/Walsh. Once you review ZipRecruiter's list of the most qualified candidates for your job, you can easily invite your top choices to apply. Encourage them to apply sooner. Amp up your hiring performances with ZipRecruiter and find the best talent fast. See why 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate within the first day. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Walsh and try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Walsh. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. I want to begin with this local news story out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, where they have been training a team of unarmed social workers to respond to 911 calls. And here's the report from Boston 25 News explaining how this is going to work or not work, as the case may be. Here it is.
We're definitely a pioneer in this approach.
A tentative plan to send a team of unarmed social workers to some emergency 911 calls in Cambridge could officially be rolled out as soon as next month, says Liz Speakman, director of the city's new Community Assistance Response and Engagement.
Having an unarmed civilian with experience in mental health going to mental health calls is really the right response.
Speakman tells us that the 5 members of the care team have extensive backgrounds as social workers and first responders. Unlike some other alternative response programs recently deployed in other cities across the country, the care team will not be accompanied by police when they are sent to nonviolent mental health-related calls.
If anything goes wrong, if there's any safety concerns, they can radio for assistance immediately and get backup right away.
It's an opportunity for us to help fix a system that's been broken for a really long time.
Care team member Marie Matthew is eager to start responding to emergencies that are presently handled by police with guns.
I think this program is an opportunity for us to take care of the people that we are trained to take care of.
So the only question is how long? How long before one of these people ends up dead or in the hospital? I'd give it about 6 months, maybe. I think that's probably a generous estimate, generous guess. Here's what I'd like to know. How many situations are there where you would call 911 over somebody's mental health issues, but the person isn't potentially dangerous? Like, in what scenario would you, where no one is in danger, as far as you can tell, and yet you're still calling 911 over someone else's mental episode that they're having? Like, give me some examples of hypothetical scenarios where someone's mental health crisis would warrant a call 911, and yet the people around this person are not in any plausible danger. Now, I'm sure there probably are some hypothetical scenarios where that could be the case. You could probably come up with some hypotheticals, but I think those are going to be rare. Generally speaking, if somebody's mental health warrants a call to 911, by definition, it warrants a response from the police. Because if all they need is counseling or somebody to talk to or something like that, then you don't need to call 911 for that. Like, 911 isn't for that anyway. So that's what doesn't make any sense about this. Because what they're saying is, well, sometimes someone doesn't need the police. They just need someone to talk to. They need someone who understands. They need whatever. Agreed. You know, not everyone who's experiencing some sort of problem with their mental health needs the police. But if you're calling 911, by definition, it has risen to that level. And here's the other issue with this, because we talk about a mental health episode, and she says that we need people with experience in mental health going to mental health calls. Well, what is a mental health call exactly? Or more precisely, I guess a better way of putting it, what isn't a mental health call? Like, I'd like to hear that woman that we just heard in the video specifically answer this. Give us some examples of times when you might call 911 on another person, but it isn't related to their mental health. Now, I could give examples, but the point is that she probably can't, as the woman who's like spearheading this whole thing. And that's because mental health is an umbrella that people like this use to describe like every crime, every misdeed a person could commit is now under the umbrella of mental health. So, you know, robbery is mental health. Stealing is mental. Murder is mental health. Rape is mental health. According to the way these people look at the world, anyone who does any of those things is like primarily it's because of their poor mental health. So then how does that work? Like, every bad thing a person does, it's because of their mental health. And so are you going to send the social workers out for everything? Now, I don't think it means that right now. Like, they don't plan right now to send social workers to respond to they're as much as we joke about it, I assume they're not going to send the social workers out to respond to a carjacking or a murder or something like that. They don't plan on that yet. But that's where this sort of thing is headed. Because that's the category that mental health is in, or mental health isn't even like mental health is a category. It's that includes everything. It's the ultimate catch-all. It's the ultimate explanation for every bad thing that happens in the world. And so, although we may joke about it now, I guarantee you that if all these people don't end up dead or in the hospital because of this, eventually you're going to see social workers and mental health professionals showing up to pretty much every call because, again, it's all mental health according to them. All right. Let's, here's something that's getting some attention because of the, this is Joy Reid, and has said something dumb. It's not exactly breaking news, but let's check in with her anyway and see what she has to say.
Well, I don't understand it because many of them said, well, of course, we support contraception. This is one of those weird deals. What do they want the Democrats to do? The Democrats have the majority in the Senate. They have an obligation to try to pass legislation that they think is a priority in America. This didn't have to be a show vote. All the Republicans had to do was vote yes. All they had to do was vote yes, but they voted no, which tells you all you need to know. And you mentioned Missouri. Let me tell you how crazy it's gotten in Missouri. all abortions are illegal. There's no exception for rape or incest. Conception happens, life begins at conception. It's a personhood state, okay? So no abortions are being performed at Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood got money as a Medicaid provider to do what? Provide contraception. And what did the Missouri legislature do this year? And what did the governor sign into law? Making sure they got no money to provide contraception to women to prevent abortions. It is so nuts, Joy. It's nuts.
And you've left off, Claire, that in your state, it's illegal for a pregnant woman to get an abortion. So they've also gone after no-fault divorce. So if you're pregnant and you're in a marriage with an abusive spouse, you can't even get a divorce once you become pregnant. You become the property of both your husband and the state. They have joint ownership of you in the state of Missouri. That is a slave state as far as being a woman is concerned, as far as I'm concerned.
So that's getting some attention because of the dumb comments you made about how Missouri is a slave state, and that is incredibly stupid, not really worth responding to or engaging with. Joy Reid doesn't even believe the things that she says. She's very stupid, but she's not actually that stupid. Despite all appearances, she does, we can assume, have an IQ somewhere above 45, and so she knows that allowing women, or rather not allowing women to kill babies is not slavery. The legalization of the murder of babies is in and of itself much more analogous to slavery. And as I've gone through plenty of times in the past, the arguments that people make against abortion bear no relation to the arguments that people made 150 years ago in favor of slavery. On the other hand, it does work. That correlation is there the opposite way, in that the arguments that people make in favor of abortion really do mirror right down the line the arguments that people made in favor of slavery 150 years ago. And the number one argument is, here's a category of people who are not really people. And so we can treat them differently because although they might technically sort of qualify as human beings, they're not people. They don't have the same moral rights as people. So that's the fundamental argument for both slavery and abortion. Anyway, so I think she understands that this is not slavery. And do you know why it's not? Well, there's 10,000 reasons why it's not slavery, and there isn't just one single reason. But here is one factor worth noting, is that you can leave. If a woman really doesn't like the laws in her state, she can leave. She doesn't have to live there. Now, granted, if it were up to me, there wouldn't be anywhere in the country a woman could go to get an abortion legally, because I think it should be legal across the entire country. But the situation right now is that a quote-unquote enslaved woman can simply move away if she's that distraught. So it's all very stupid. But I want to note what Claire McCaskill says at the beginning of the clip. She laments the fact that Planned Parenthood isn't getting funding in the state anymore to give out birth control. And that is very foolish, she says, because they were preventing abortions, she says. Well, if you really think that Planned Parenthood was ever in the business of trying to prevent abortions, then you must also think that Apple designs its new iPhones to be as durable as possible in order to prevent you from having to buy a new iPhone. But I think we all understand that it's the opposite. The main purpose of the iPhone, as far as Apple is concerned, is to cause you to buy another iPhone. They are in the iPhone business, and so they want you to keep buying them, and that is the main thing that they want you to do. Planned Parenthood is in the abortion business. That's where they make almost all their income. If you don't count tax funding, almost all their income comes from abortion. They make millions and millions of dollars on abortion. And that means that whatever they're doing, they do it because it ultimately creates more abortion customers down the line. So why do they give out contraception? Well, because they have determined rightly that encouraging and facilitating cheap, meaningless sex between strangers will lead to more abortions ultimately, even if they're using contraception. The point of the birth control is to get people in the habit of having sex with people that they don't want to have babies with, and also to see sex as the sort of thing that ought not to lead to babies. And this just guarantees that eventually one day, when the birth control fails, or they have sex one time without it, or whatever, one of these days, the pregnancy will happen and the abortion is almost guaranteed at this point. So that's why. The Planned Parenthood, they like to give out the birth control, not because they're trying to prevent abortions, but because they're making an investment in the future. All right, they're making they're bringing in customers, and they're giving the birth control, but then there's the upsell down the line to abortion, and so that's what they're trying to establish customer relations so that later on they can do the abortion. And that's because birth control does not prevent abortions at all, as McCaskill claims. Abortion is not a consequence of not having birth control. Abortion is a consequence of the choice people make to get abortions, which itself is a consequence of their values and attitudes and expectations. And those values, attitudes, expectations have been shaped by institutions like Planned Parenthood for the purpose of ensuring that there are more abortions. All right, Hillary Clinton tweeted this out yesterday. 80 years ago today, thousands of brave Americans fought to protect democracy on the shores of Normandy. This November, all we have to do is vote. People seem to be extremely upset by this tweet. I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, I know why. She's comparing Biden voters to the troops on D-Day, comparing Trump to Hitler. It is very gross and very insane, but I don't really have the energy to be actually mad about this kind of thing anymore because it's all so empty and so fake. You notice something for all the talk that Trump is going to be the end of democracy, the end of the Constitution, and so on. They never explain how exactly. They never explain how that's going to work. James Carville, who's the 145-year-old political strategist, had the same message yesterday when he was trying to explain on, I think it was some kind of podcast, and he was trying to explain why, although normally he thinks that the media should be unbiased and objective and honest, truthful in their reporting, he thinks an exception should be made this time around because the most important thing is to keep Trump from getting elected. Listen to this.
So this is the basic question. But people say, Trump is going to be the Republican nominee and we got to cover it, and Biden's the Democratic nominee. And we cover this. And if there's something bad about Biden, of course, we got to print it. But if something comes up that is, I don't think it's anything good about Trump, but more favorable to him, like the L.A. Honigs and the Fareed Zakarias of the world, that's one way to look at it. We tell the truth and let the people decide. Or at times when the country is at great peril or the moral imperative is so great, you don't do that. And so now you have Joe Kahn, the new editor, publisher, whatever he is, New York Times, said, we're just going to cover this down the middle. We're going to cover what it is. I don't think that's the role of the news media at a time when the entire Constitution is in peril. I don't have anything against slanted coverage. I really don't. I think I would have something against it under most other times in American history, but not right now. Your objectivity. The real objectivity in this country right now is we either going to have a constitution or we not.
All right, so the news should not be objective, he says, because right now the country is in great peril and it'll be the end of everything if Trump is elected. My first question is, when has that not been the case? That's why I say everything is so fake and empty and just like every election that I have been aware of for as long as I've been alive, this has been the narrative. I mean, every 4 years we do this again and again. It's the same pageant every election cycle that this is the one, this is the last one. If we don't, it's the end of democracy, great peril. And I don't know, does anyone still buy this after all this time? Like, can you hear this over and over and over again and still buy it? Yeah, sometimes, in fact, I think there's plenty that the opposition is doing to Trump that would qualify as certainly unprecedented, starting with the criminal trials, the two impeachments. So there's a lot that they've done that is truly unprecedented. There's no question about it. But somehow I think that we overstate it to some extent. We overstate, anyway, how different their response to Trump is. Even again, while I acknowledge that they're doing a lot that has never been done before in history. But my only point is that it can be easy to forget that back in the Bush years, although the impeachments and the criminal trials weren't there, the level of panic was very similar. We heard a lot of the same things. We heard a lot of those same things about like Mitt Romney, the most milquetoast human being who's ever lived, probably. We heard a lot of this same kind of stuff. And the only point of bringing that up is just to show again how empty and fake it is. That this is what, and here, when next election cycle, assuming that it's not Trump running again, if he does not win the presidency, and then assuming it's not Trump running again, assuming it's somebody else in 2028, you think they're gonna dial it back? You think they're going to say, all right, well, it's not Trump this time, so, hey, we want to win, but look, it's not going to be the end of democracy. Trump was a unique figure, but this new guy, whoever it is, yeah, we prefer for him not to win, but look, the country's not in great peril. You think they're going to say that? Of course they're not going to. Of course they're not. So this is what they say. They say that we won't have a constitution. Of course, what Carville is neglecting to mention is that we already don't have a constitution. The Constitution is dead. It's deader than rotting roadkill on the side of the road at this point. That's why Biden has completely ignored it through his whole tenure. Presidents have been ignoring it for decades. The Constitution didn't factor in at all during COVID. Basically like it didn't exist. So it is already effectively dead, sad to say. But Trump isn't going to come in and be the death of whatever is left of the Constitution, the death of the country itself, the death of democracy. That's the claim. We've heard it a million times. But again, whether it's coming from Hillary or James Carville or any of these people, what they never do is they never explain how. Because nobody ever asks that follow-up question. It's a basic follow-up question. And if you took the claim seriously, you would ask that question. When you've got these pundits on these cable news shows saying, Trump's going to end democracy. If you're the host of the show and you think that is sincere and you don't see that this all is just a pageant, if you take it seriously, then the obvious follow-up question is, oh my gosh, how is he going to do that? Like, tell me more. Oh my goodness, tell me, how's he going to do it? What do you foresee in your crystal ball of what exactly is Trump going to do to end democracy and the Constitution and bring about a dictatorship? They're never asked that question because they don't have an answer to it. They can't answer it. They know that it's not going to happen. And again, it's all just so fake. It's fake. Everything's fake. There are some unmistakable signs that summer is quickly creeping in. Grills are firing up. The cicadas around my house are finally quieting down. Of course, we've got season finales on the horizon. This Sunday, we're bringing you the grand finale of the Daily Wire's first ever animated sitcom, Mr. Bertram, exclusively on DailyWire Plus. Created by the one and only Adam Carolla, this show features an impressive lineup of talent, including Megyn Kelly, Roseanne Barr, Jay Moore, Tyler Fisher, Danny Trejo, our very own Brett Cooper, and many more. We've been keeping the best for last, and let me tell you that we're pulling out all the stops for this final episode. You won't want to miss it, and you'll only catch it right here on the Daily Wire. So here's a game plan. If you haven't already started tuning in, spend the first part of your weekend binge watching the series now on DailyWire Plus. Then come Sunday, sit back, relax, enjoy the thrilling conclusion of season 1. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Join us exclusively on DailyWire Plus for the unforgettable season finale of Mr. Bertram, the Daily Wire's first ever animated sitcom. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. I began the show by talking about how the media and the government tried to gaslight us into believing that the Covenant school shooting had nothing to do with transgenderism, that social distancing worked, the vaccines were safe and effective, etc. As serious as all of those frauds are, there's an even larger scam that's going on. One of the biggest brainwashing efforts, one of the biggest PSYOP campaigns of all, is the campaign to convince us that morbid obesity is healthy and beautiful. We've seen this all over the place, including Dove's disturbing new ad campaign featuring an obese social justice activist. as well as Gillette's creepy demand that we love our skin, Victoria's Secret's so-called body-positive fashion shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these campaigns, among many others, are a disingenuous effort to convince Americans that being fat and unhealthy is, in fact, beautiful and wonderful and great. We're expected to suspend our senses and affirm yet another thing that is obviously not true. But amid this intense bombardment of pro-obesity propaganda, what just happened at the National American Miss Pageant manages to stand out. This is an event that, according to its website, aims to foster positive self-image by enhancing the natural beauty within. Now, it's distinct from the better-known Miss America pageant, normally doesn't get that much attention. It's getting attention this year, though, because the National American Miss Pageant just named a morbidly obese 23-year-old woman named Sarah Milliken as their Miss Alabama. And she'll go on to compete at the national level later this year. Watch.
A woman from Atmore is living her dream, representing the state of Alabama in the National American Miss Program. WKRG News 5 Summer Pool introduces us to this inspiring young woman.
A crowning achievement, 8 years in the making. Sarah Milliken of Atmore has competed in the National American Miss Program since she was 15.
I competed once as a junior teen when I was 15, again as a teen when I was 16, and not placing, that was really, really hard.
Now at 23, the famous saying rings true, third time's a charm.
Just being able to come back 8 years later and say, okay, I didn't give up on this dream, and now, because I didn't give up on it, I get to be the next Miss Alabama and wear this crown for a year.
Now, there's at least some cause for relief here because, as far as we could tell, Sarah Milliken is indeed an actual woman. So, that in some ways is an improvement. That's a point in her favor because you can't take that for granted these days. And that's how low the bar is these days with these pageants. Unfortunately, just about everything else about this display is disturbing. To be clear, as far as I can tell, the National American Miss Pageant is ostensibly supposed to celebrate beauty. They do talk about positive self-image and all that, but it does appear that most of the contestants actually put some effort into their appearance and are, basically healthy for the most part. Here's a look at Milliken's competitors just to give you some idea. And, for the most part, a traditional beauty pageant sort of look with 1.5 notable exceptions. And as you can see, they're not all obese. They look healthy for the most part. So how exactly did Milliken squash the competition? How did she win? From that interview, it sounds a bit like she just sort of wore down the judges. She kept coming back year after year, presumably getting larger and larger each time. And then maybe the judges decided to put an end to it before things just got completely out of hand. Quote, because I didn't give up on it, I get to be the next Miss Alabama, she says. Now, normally when people say something like that, they're referring to all the hard work that they did in the interim. They're implying that they endured some form of personal sacrifice, improved themselves before ultimately winning the prize. But that's not the case here. This woman just kept throwing herself at this competition until, she tipped the scales in her favor somehow. Now, to be fair, as the interview went on, Milliken did attempt to provide some clarity as to what exactly she was doing for the 8 years that she was trying to win this competition. Watch.
I hope that they learn that no matter what your body looks like, no matter where you come from, you can do anything that you set your mind to. I didn't think that it was possible for a plus-size girl to win. I didn't think it was possible for a girl from small-town Alabama to win.
Getting that win took a lot of hard work.
I worked literally every single day for 365 days. There wasn't a day that I wasn't practicing my on-stage speech or my introduction, interview.
So she was working every day for 365 days on her speech and interview prep. Now, left unstated is that she was also overeating, dangerously so, the entire time. And it's strange that she doesn't mention that. After all, it's a big part of this interview, her whole story. She's presenting herself as a success story because she won despite being obese. So why isn't she proud of the fact that she's obese? Why isn't she telling us exactly how much you have to eat in order to get her figure? If it's not shameful and dangerous to be critically obese, then why shy away from talking about it? Now, at one point in that clip, you heard this woman utter the cliche, you can do anything you set your mind to. And it's supposed to be an uplifting message amid all of the online hate that she's receiving. But it's not really. I mean, yes, the people referring to this pageant as I've seen online, as a cattle auction, or calling this woman Miss All 50 States in One. It's another quote that I saw online. These people are being crass, but there's also an important point here, which is that this woman is setting herself up for a very early death, and no one encouraging her to pursue that actually has her best interests at heart. If you actually care about this woman, then you would not encourage her to kill herself, and eating that much is a slow motion suicide. Like we all know, you are looking like that. You are not going to live to the age of 75. Doesn't mean you won't live to the age of 75, but you can either choose to cut the weight and then you can live a long and healthy life, or not, and you won't. Consider the fact that many of these body positive influencers drop dead before they even hit middle age. So we've seen this play out several times. The Daily Mail just published a roundup on several of them. There was the 33-year-old TikTok star, Waffler69, real name Taylor Lejeune, who had 2 million followers. The day before he died of a presumed heart attack, he videotaped himself eating a giant Fruit Loop in milk. Here's what that looked like. Oh, it's not a video, it's just a thing. Okay, well, anyway, that's the thing. According to the Daily Mail, Taylor Lejeune didn't flaunt his weight, but there were many other dead influencers who did. For example, here's Professor of Fat Studies, Dr. Kat Paws, who I assume that's not her real name, but she died at 42. And according to Dr. Kat Paws, quote, "The science isn't quite clear as it isn't quite as clear cut as we'd like to believe. There's not really quite a consensus yet about the relationship between weight and health. Obese people, and even morbidly obese people, have just as good health or better health than someone in the normal weight range." And that is obviously insane, tragically insane, because it claimed her own life. But you have to understand that this is something that people are accepting as true. This has become a popular myth among many people, that being massively overweight doesn't necessarily mean you're unhealthy. There was also 37-year-old Jamie Lopez, who founded a salon for plus-size women and pushed body positivity. Her show was called Supersized Salon. It lasted just one season before she died. And according to the Federalist, she weighed more than 800 pounds at one point and came up with the idea for her company while confined to her bed. At her heaviest, Lopez weighed 846 pounds and designed her company while, again, confined to a bed. This is the consequence of this body positivity agenda. And the truth is that obesity cannot be beautiful for the same reason that cancerous tumors can't be beautiful, because it is toxic. It is destructive to the human person. Seeing beauty in self-destruction is inherently disordered. They know they can't actually convince anyone, or hardly anyone, to buy into the fat is beautiful lie. So instead they try to manipulate us into pretending that we buy into it with news reports and beauty pageants and body positivity campaigns that insult our intelligence. That's the real reason they're parading this hapless, poor woman around. And it's why the National American Miss Pageant, and everyone else who pretends that heart disease and an early death are beautiful, are today canceled. That'll do it for the show today and this weekend. Talk to you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Godspeed. The executive producer of The Matt Walsh Show is Sean Hampton. Our associate producer is McKenna Waters. The show is directed by Mark Jones and Trey Miller. Our production manager is Austin Michaelis. The show is edited by Jeff Tomlin. Our lead audio engineer is Mike Coromina. Our audio engineer is Ryan Reese. Our hair and makeup artists are Cherokee Hart and Andrea Bauer. Our wardrobe stylists are Kristen Galarraga and Cameron Lasco. The director of production is Mathis Glover. Our director of post-production is Matthew Kemp. Director of Studio Operations is Pavel Vodowski. Camera Studio and Equipment Management is Patrick Kennedy. Our Chief Broadcast Engineer is Jeff Govin. And our Assistant Broadcast Engineer is Allegra Rohr. Our Lighting Director, Keith Duggan. Show designers are Kat Darnell and Cynthia Angulo. Episode thumbnails are created by Grace Gordon and Clay Hyder. Our playback operators are Finn Pope and CJ Hickish. And our show assistant is Holly Pratt. Our production assistants are Mike Moran and Zach Lewis. Executive in charge of production is David Wormus. Executive producer is Jeremy Boring. The Matt Walsh Show is a Daily Wire production. Copyright Daily Wire 2024.
John Bickley here, Daily Wire Editor-in-Chief. Wake up every morning with our show, Morning Wire, where we bring you all the news that you need to know in 15 minutes or less. Join me and my co-host Georgia Howe for daily coverage of all the biggest stories on Morning Wire.